Hey everybody, Mike Naso here from IPR365.com and podweather.com with an update on powerful Hurricane Ike and taking a look at the entire Atlantic. The only feature we have on this September 10th, the peak of the hurricane season, is dangerous Hurricane Ike, which is sitting right here in the Gulf of Mexico. It's a powerful hurricane, and it is poised to strengthen and strike the Texas coastline by the time the weekend rolls around. Here's the latest on Hurricane Ike as of 11 p.m. Eastern Time. It was at 24.9 north, 86.7 west. Winds were actually 100 miles per hour, not 95. This map's incorrect. And they're gusting at least to 120, moving northwest slowly at 6-7 miles per hour, 944 millibars. And note that pressure is lower than it was when Ike was a Category 4 over the Turks and Caicos Islands. So it's all a matter of time until those winds respond to the falling pressure, and we have a very dangerous major hurricane. It is forecast by tomorrow to start strengthening even more, although it could fluctuate in the next, say, 6 to 12 hours, and maybe even weaken a bit depending on what the structure does. And then the more extreme strengthening comes Thursday night and Friday into a major hurricane all the way up into landfall. Currently forecast to make landfall along the Texas coastline at about 125, 130 miles per hour, but it could be as weak as a Cat 2, as strong as a powerful Category 4, and the track could be as far north as, say, the western Louisiana coastline, or as far south as the areas here around Padre Island, Texas. So again, there is a large cone of uncertainty, but mainly the Texas coastline. And for that, we do have hurricane watches out from Cameron, Louisiana, all the way down to Port Mansfield, and then from the mouth of the Mississippi River all the way over to Louisiana, we have those tropical storm watches and warnings out for that region. Again, with the expectation that this very large wind field will begin to impact areas regardless of where the hurricane goes. If the hurricane gets any larger, it's going to be very dangerous. Again, Hurricane Katrina was about this large, maybe a little bigger than this. This is trying to rival the size of the wind swath of Katrina. Remember, Katrina had hurricane force winds from Louisiana to Florida. Well, if you look, that's pretty much what we got now, pretty much just about. And if that hits the mid-Texas coast, we're going to have a large area of damaging winds. But it's not just the wind, it's the water. The storm surge potential in this area is very, very large with this hurricane. We could have upwards of 20 feet of storm surge, especially if it comes inland as a Category 4, and all of that water spinning, if it comes south of Galveston, could potentially impact those areas further north, so it's a very bad situation. Again, here's the latest IR satellite, and you can see the hurricane there spinning, and again, it has trouble trying to get that inner core established at the end. It has a very small 8, 9, 10 mile wide eye, but then it has a very large circulation. And so that may collapse, it may weaken, it may try and form a new eye. Remember when Katrina was in this area, Katrina had a lot of trouble, and then it popped out that huge eye and went from a 115 mile per hour hurricane to a 175 mile an hour hurricane in a very short time. So even though this is struggling on IR, do not be surprised here if a big eye pops out as it's approaching Texas and it becomes an even more powerful hurricane. But again, very dangerous looking Hurricane Ike, a lot of power with this storm. Here's the latest track forecast models. They're in good agreement that it's going to bend more westerly and then eventually curve west-northwest. Classic curve. Look at that, straight into the Texas coastline. The models do conflict on whether or not it will be more of a sharp turn towards Houston, Galveston, or more of a gradual turn towards, say, Corpus Christi. Either way, everybody along the Texas coastline needs to be getting their hurricane plans ready now, and I've already heard evacuations already in the works. 120 knots, that's 140 miles per hour, is about what the H-Wharf model brings it inland near Corpus Christi as an extremely dangerous Category 4 hurricane. The GFDL is a little bit weaker, but still about 135 mile per hour Cat 4 into the area just south of Houston, Galveston. Very, very nasty situation if that were to occur. And again, if we look at the areas here on MapQuest that could be impacted, you can see Corpus Christi here, Galveston up here, areas in between like Freeport, Port Lavaca. You have the Matagorda Bay region in here. This is all the area that could be really severely impacted in the forecast track. Right now, the probabilities have Freeport. They stand a good chance at getting hurricane force winds, but just as much of a chance as, say, Corpus or Galveston. So we do have a large area here, but keep in mind, if the eye were to make landfall, let's say, let's say the eye makes landfall near Port Lavaca, you have a large hurricane. So you would have the storm surge pushing ashore in areas like Freeport and Galveston, even if you have the eye of the hurricane making landfall further south. So this is a very, very dangerous hurricane, and everybody along the Texas coastline needs to be taking this very, very seriously. This is probably going to be the worst hurricane to hit Texas, definitely since Alicia in '83, but probably Carla in 1961, and that hit Port Lavaca as a Category 4. It's probably going to be the worst. You can see the upper level winds are pretty favorable over the top of it. It's all a matter of getting that inner core better established, and then we'll have strengthening, likely until landfall, but again, they could always weaken. But if this thing became a Cat 5 and then fell apart to a Category 2, you would still have those Category 3, 4, 5 waters pushing ashore, and that would be very bad news. You can see shear is very low out here in the central Atlantic, but not too much to talk of there. We'll get to that in just a minute. The upper level, the sea surface temperature is rather very warm here in the western Gulf. A little bit of a cool eddy where Hurricane Ike is about to pass over. That's why it may fluctuate or even weaken. But once it gets over these waters here, it's going to have plenty of time to really crank up before it makes landfall. Again, looking over the entire Atlantic, the Cape Verde season is pretty quiet right now, even though we're at the peak of hurricane season, but we do have the remnants of Josephine here, and they're kind of flaring up. Nothing on that from the Hurricane Center yet, but there is this outflow from Hurricane Ike kind of left behind, and if these kind of merge here, we might get something spinning. Some of the models have indicated maybe something heading like that. We'll have to wait and see on that, but basically Ike is the very formidable, powerful hurricane, and the only hurricane in either the Western Atlantic or the Eastern Pacific. So right now it's really the main feature in town. No eye on satellite yet, but once that pops out, you're really going to be able to see Ike coming for the Texas coastline. Again, look at the wonderful outflow all the way into the southern hemisphere, helping ventilate this hurricane. Very, very serious situation with Hurricane Ike. Stay tuned to IPR365.com. All of the team is going to be on with live streaming coverage all the way up until and after landfall. So stay tuned to IPR365.com as well as podweather.com. I'll see you next time with more on Ike.